Hey guys, and welcome back to History for Sleep. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I would like to walk you through how Spartans fought, the silent march of the Phalanx. But before that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below from which part of the world you are listening this. Let's begin. The city of Sparta lay quiet under the first gentle light of dawn. Mist hovered low over the stone-paved streets, curling softly around doorways and the base of olive trees. The air was cool and still, carrying the faint scent of earth and dew. In this early hour, before the sounds of life began, there was a pause, a suspended moment where the city seemed to breathe slowly, deliberately. The rooftops glimmered faintly, catching the pale gold of sunlight, and the distant hills stood muted and steadfast, as if observing the rhythm of a city that moved, yet remained perfectly still. In these streets, no clamor had yet begun, no hurried footsteps or bustling voices. Instead, there was only the gentle, almost imperceptible hum of waking, the sound of life stirring softly beneath the calm. From the quiet homes, warriors began to rise, their bodies stretching slowly, limbs moving with the ease of practice, the familiarity of a rhythm long rehearsed. Some carried water in simple basins, dipping hands and washing faces in the pale light, droplets scattering in soft arcs and glinting faintly before disappearing. The motions were unhurried, deliberate, sacred in their simplicity. Each breath, each movement, felt like part of a larger pattern, a harmony connecting one man to the next, one day to the long history of Sparta itself. The air was cool against their skin, and the faint rustle of olive leaves whispered secrets of endurance, patience, and strength. In these moments, the warriors' minds were already beginning the silent preparation for what was to come. There was no hurry, no panic, only the measured awareness of the body, the quiet sharpening of mind and senses. Even as the day began, there was an undercurrent of stillness, the sort of silence that carries the weight of expectation, of purpose. Soon, the low, muted sound of bronze began to rise, gentle taps echoing from homes and courtyards. Shields were lifted carefully, examined, polished slowly to a soft gleam. Bronze helmets caught the light, dull yet glowing, each scratch and curve telling stories of battles past, of endurance and discipline. Red cloaks, folded neatly, awaited the moment when they would fall over broad shoulders, symbols of identity, unity, and readiness. In the fields beyond the city, where the morning mist lingered like a gentle veil over grass and stone, the young men of Sparta began their morning drills. Spears were lifted and lowered in precise, measured arcs. Shields clanged lightly, rhythmically, a soft counterpoint to the hum of the wind through trees. Each motion was practiced, perfected over years of repetition, a choreography of strength and control. The Phalanx, even before formation, existed as an idea, a promise of unity, a single pulse waiting to synchronize with the rhythm of the earth itself. Time slowed here. Each step, each turn, each thrust of spear was not merely practice. It was ritual, meditation, and preparation. Their movements mirrored the natural world, the bending of reeds in the wind, the silent glide of birds in formation across the sky, the ebb and flow of waves against a gentle shore. Each warrior was an individual, yet each was part of a larger whole, inseparable from the body of men moving in silence. disciplined harmony. By mid-morning, the phalanx began to take shape in the open fields. The sun had climbed higher, soft light scattering across bronze and wood, illuminating shields locked together in seamless alignment. Spears jutted forward at precise angles, catching glimmers of sun like scattered starlight on calm water. Footsteps fell in perfect rhythm, a low, steady drum against the earth. Dust rose faintly, caught in the morning light, creating a halo around the advancing wall of men. The advance was slow, deliberate, almost hypnotic. There was no chaos, no rush, only the coordinated breathing of hundreds of bodies moving as one. The march was silent, except for the muted steps on soil, a heartbeat echoing across the landscape. This was the essence of the phalanx: strength tempered by rhythm, courage contained within discipline. A wave of humanity moving with an almost sacred precision. As they moved, the air seemed to vibrate gently with the weight of anticipation. Thoughts and fears were acknowledged, then set aside, subsumed into the single motion of the group. Each warrior's gaze was steady, focused on the horizon, yet inward at the same time, aware of the unity that gave power, aware of the order that defined survival. The very act of walking in unison became a meditation, a statement of resilience, a silent declaration of readiness for what lay ahead. When the moment of engagement arrived, it was not a sudden rush, but a continuation of the rhythm already established. The phalanx pressed forward like the slow tide, shields interlocked, spears advancing, feet moving in concert. The battlefield itself seemed to bend to their measured tempo, dust rising, sunlight scattering, the soft sound of wood meeting wood and bronze meeting bronze, forming a strange calm music of exertion and restraint. Even in the tension of contact, there was a strange serenity. The push and resistance, the pressure of bodies, the careful balance of advance and hold was like observing waves breaking on a distant shore. No cry shattered the air. No chaos overwhelmed the senses. The focus remained on unity, rhythm, and precision. Each step, each breath, each shift of weight was a note in a silent, disciplined symphony. Hours seemed to stretch, and still the phalanx held its order, moving forward steadily. Occasionally, a fallen shield or dropped spear would be retrieved without haste, handled with care but placed gently, as though the rhythm itself demanded respect for every object, every motion. The scene was both intense and calm, a paradox captured in soft, muted tones, as though the chaos of conflict had been filtered through a lens of meditation. When the field finally emptied, when the dust settled and silence returned, the warriors walked slowly back to their camp. Trampled grass and broken spears marked the passage, but there was no urgency. Only the quiet repair of bodies, armor, and spirits. Bread was shared simply, conversations muted, gestures deliberate. The walk home under olive trees was long and unhurried. Cicadas sang, wind brushed softly through leaves, and the last rays of sun cast golden light over hills and rooftops. Night fell over Sparta with a gentle hush. Fires glowed softly in homes and streets. Armor was set aside, shields leaned carefully against walls, and red cloaks were folded for the night. Warriors lay down to sleep, their breathing slow and steady, echoing the rhythm of the day. The phalanx existed still, a heartbeat carried across centuries, a testament to discipline, unity, and the silent power of ordered motion. The city of Sparta lay cloaked in the gentle veil of dawn. Mist curled along narrow stone streets and lingered around the gnarled trunks of olive trees, each leaf catching the pale, first light of morning. The city was still, hushed, as though holding its breath, awaiting the day's rhythm to unfold. Roofs glimmered faintly in soft ochre and muted gold, catching the rising sun as if to honor it silently. In this quiet hour, the world seemed suspended between night and day, neither rushing forward nor retreating, simply existing in the balance of calm and expectation. From humble homes, the first stirrings of Spartan life began. Warriors rose slowly, muscles stretching, tendons uncoiling like reeds in the wind. Water basins were brought forward, and hands dipped gently into the cool, flowing streams. Faces were washed with deliberate care, droplets scattering in quiet arcs, glinting faintly in the soft light. Every motion was unhurried, every breath deliberate. Even these small acts, repeated daily over years, carried weight and significance. Preparation not only of the body, but of the mind, attuning it to focus, endurance, and awareness. The city of Sparta lay cloaked in the gentle veil of dawn. Mist curled along narrow stone streets and lingered around the gnarled trunks of olive trees, each leaf catching the pale, first light of morning. The city was still, hushed, as though holding its breath, awaiting the day's rhythm to unfold. Roofs glimmered faintly in soft ochre and muted gold, catching the rising sun as if to honor it silently. In this quiet hour, the world seemed suspended between night and day, neither rushing forward nor retreating, simply existing in the balance of calm and expectation. From humble homes, the first stirrings of Spartan life began. Warriors rose slowly, muscles stretching, tendons uncoiling like reeds in the wind. Water basins were brought forward, and hands dipped gently into the cool, flowing streams. Faces were washed with deliberate care, droplets scattering in quiet arcs, glinting faintly in the soft light. Every motion was unhurried, every breath deliberate. Even these small acts, repeated daily over years, carried weight and significance. Preparation not only of the body, but of the mind, attuning it to focus, endurance, and awareness. Soon, the quiet was joined by the soft, metallic hum of bronze. Shields were lifted and examined with care. Bronze helmets were polished until light danced across their curves in subtle glints. Red cloaks, folded and draped with precision, awaited their time. There was no rush, no fanfare, only a profound attention to detail, a ritual of preparation where each action, each touch was meaningful. The act of arranging one's gear was itself a meditation, a rhythm of hand against cloth, metal, and wood, aligning body and spirit in readiness. In the fields beyond the city, morning mist wove around rocks and trees, softening edges and blurring the distance. Here, the young men of Sparta began their training. Spears rose and fell in controlled arcs, shields lifted and lowered in precise movements. Each gesture was rehearsed, perfected through countless repetitions. This was not merely practice. It was a sacred rhythm, a choreography of discipline and unity. Every motion, every shift of weight, Every step was synchronized with a larger body of men, each individual part of a single living organism, each breath aligned to the shared heartbeat of the group. The Phalanx, even before it formed fully, existed as an idea, a concept of power, order, and cohesion. Warriors moved with a quiet intensity, each step measured, each stance precise. The sun climbed higher, casting soft light on rows of bronze and wood, illuminating shields and spears in muted gold and earthy tones. The dust rising from the soil formed gentle clouds around their feet, moving slowly with the rhythm of motion, suspended in the air like drifting memory. Every day, the training began with repetition. Spear thrust, shield lift, step, turn, advance. And in repetition, there was meditation. Each movement echoed the natural world. Reeds swaying in harmony, birds gliding as one across the morning sky, waves pressing gently against the shore. A single warrior, moving in isolation, was simply a man. Together, moving in perfect synchronization, they became a force, a living manifestation of unity. Order and controlled strength dot. As morning ripened into mid-morning, the Phalanx began to take shape. Warriors stepped forward, locking shields together in geometric precision. Spears extended forward, creating a field of bronze and wood, angled with meticulous care. Footsteps struck the earth in soft, steady rhythm, like the slow drum of a heartbeat. Dust rose faintly with each movement, caught in the morning light, creating halos around men advancing in seamless unison. The effect was mesmerizing, almost hypnotic, a study of coordinated power in motion. The march was silent, save for the muted sound of sandals brushing soil. Even in the exertion, there was serenity. The men were aware of themselves, yet each was conscious primarily of the body of the Phalanx. Individual thought softened into collective focus, each movement guided by both instruction and instinct. The rhythm was paramount. Step, breath, shift, advance. A cadence that bound them together, stronger than any individual strength could alone. It was in this rhythm that courage was nurtured, not shouted, not declared, but held quietly, firmly, with calm assurance. By noon, the Phalanx moved as a single entity across open fields. Bronze shields glinted softly, sunlight scattering across carefully angled spears. Mist and dust mingled, softening the edges of men, blurring them into one cohesive wave of human form. From the vantage of a distant hill, the formation might appear like a living river, flowing steadily forward, unbroken and resolute. Nature itself seemed to echo the movement. The wind bending reeds, the leaves brushing softly in rhythm, the distant hills absorbing the silent advance. When the first skirmishes of contact arrived, they were experienced not as chaos, but as extensions of the rhythm. The press of shields against shields, the slow push of opposing lines, the measured clash of spear tips, all became part of the symphony of motion. There were no cries, no frantic gestures, only the weight of bodies moving in unison. The ebb and flow of pressure and release, the careful navigation of space and force. Each soldier was aware of his neighbors, each move calculated and precise, a harmony of discipline that carried forward across the battlefield. Even as hours passed, the Phalanx maintained order. Shields were adjusted gently, spears retrieved and replaced without haste. Movements repeated, subtly varied, each iteration reinforcing the underlying rhythm. Dust swirled slowly in the air, illuminated by the sun's ascent, forming soft clouds that seemed almost suspended in time. Observing the scene, one would see not chaos, but a wave of purpose, a deliberate, measured exertion unfolding like a slow, living poem. When battle eventually waned, the field returned to silence. Broken spears lay across trampled grass. Dust lingered in the air, catching the late light, soft and golden. Warriors walked back slowly to camp, repairing armor, adjusting shields, sharing bread and water in gentle, quiet gestures. Conversation was minimal, measured. Laughter soft, almost hesitant. The journey home followed a path lined with olive trees, their leaves brushing softly, cicadas singing intermittently, the light fading gently into warm sunset hues of orange and muted violet. Night descended on Sparta with a hushed serenity. Fires glowed softly in homes and streets, illuminating red cloaks and bronze glints with muted warmth. Armor rested against walls, shields stacked with care. Warriors lay down, breathing slow and steady, the rhythm of the day carried into rest. The Phalanx had existed, not only in the field, but in the mind, in the body, in the shared heartbeat of hundreds of men moving as one. Across centuries, that rhythm echoed, a testament to unity, discipline, and the quiet, enduring power of order. The sun climbed slowly higher, spilling soft light over the fields where the young men of Sparta continued their agoged drills. Each movement was a study in precision, a slow unfolding of discipline and strength. Spears were raised, lowered, angled with care. Shields were lifted, rotated, pressed against one another in rhythmic coordination. Step by measured step, the warriors advanced and retreated, each motion echoing the heartbeat of the whole, each breath synchronized, each glance attentive to the subtle shifts around them. The agoge, the long training that shaped boys into men, was not merely physical. It was a meditation in endurance and patience. Every run across the hills, every climb over rocks, every measured strike with spear or sword was a lesson in control, a ritual of mental fortitude as much as bodily strength. Warriors moved slowly, deliberately, their bodies learning the language of unity, their minds echoing the rhythm of the land. Even the sounds of exertion were muted. The scrape of sandal on stone, the faint clang of bronze against bronze, the low rustle of cloaks in motion. Hours passed, yet the pace remained steady, almost hypnotic. The men repeated sequences of thrust, lift, parry, and advance, refining the choreography of war into a slow, meditative dance. Here there was no chaos, no hurry. Time itself seemed to stretch, elongated by the measured cadence of the Phalanx. Observing them from a distance, one might mistake the field for a living river, flowing gently, flowing with purpose, each ripple of motion, an echo of the heartbeat that drove the formation forward, between drills. There were moments of ritual, small and intimate. Warriors knelt in quiet corners to offer gestures to the gods, small offerings of oil, grain, or fruit, performed with care and reverence. The act was not hurried, but deliberate, each movement a meditation on duty and humility. Long hair was combed and tied, the red cloak folded, and placed over the shoulders with exact precision. Bronze armor was inspected again, polished where needed, every scratch noted, every curve attended to. These preparations, though seemingly mundane, carried the weight of generations, the quiet acknowledgement of what it meant to be a Spartan. The Phalanx then reassembled in the fields. Step by step, shield against shield, spear against spear, they moved forward as one. Dust rose in gentle clouds around their feet, sunlight catching the particles, turning them into faint halos that drifted upward like smoke from an unseen fire. The rhythm of movement was steady, hypnotic. 1, 2, 3 step, thrust, breathe, over and over, until the field itself seemed to breathe in time with the soldiers. The advance was deliberate, almost reverent. Spears were angled forward, catching glimmers of light, their tips forming a continuous field of muted bronze. Shields locked together, forming a seamless wall, each man supporting the one beside him. Feet struck the earth in unison, producing a sound as soft and steady as a distant drumbeat. In this silence, there was power, a strength beyond the individual, a harmony of bodies and minds. When the first contact of battle occurred, it was not violent in the way one might imagine. There were no cries, no chaos, only the steady pressure of bodies, the subtle push and release of disciplined strength. The Phalanx held firm, advancing like waves rolling toward shore, each man aware of his neighbors, each movement measured, precise, intentional. The air was filled with the low hum of exertion, the soft scrape of metal against metal, the gentle thrum of thousands of footsteps moving as one. Even in the intensity of engagement, the scene retained its calm. Warriors adjusted shields, retrieved fallen spears, and pressed forward without haste. The battlefield became a canvas of rhythm and order, a dreamlike vision of collective discipline. Dust swirled lazily in the air, illuminated by sunlight, softening the harshness of conflict into something almost poetic. Each push and counter, each advance and hold, was a note in a symphony of control and unity. Time passed slowly on that field. Hours might have stretched like days, yet the Phalanx moved with unwavering consistency. Every gesture, every motion, every breath was an echo of the training, of the long years of preparation, of the silent, steady heartbeat that bound them together. The warriors were not merely fighting. They were performing, moving through a ritual that honored their discipline, their comrades, and the very land beneath their feet. When battle eventually drew to a close, the field was quiet again. Broken spears lay across trampled grass, dust rising gently in the fading light. The men walked slowly back to camp, repairing armor, adjusting shields, sharing bread and water in measured, deliberate gestures. Conversations were soft, punctuated by occasional laughter that was gentle and fleeting, as if even sound itself bowed to the rhythm of the day. The journey home followed a path lined with olive trees. Leaves brushed softly against cloaks. Cicadas sang intermittently, and the light faded gradually into the warm tones of sunset, casting long shadows across the hills and valleys dotted camp. Fires were lit with careful hands, casting gentle glow over resting warriors. Bronze glimmered softly, red cloaks draped quietly over benches and tables. Some polished weapons anew, some shared stories in murmured tones, and some simply sat in reflection, eyes tracing the gentle movement of flame. The work was slow, precise, meditative, each gesture a continuation of the rhythm that had carried the day. Nightfall settled over Sparta, wrapping the city in a blanket of stars. Shadows deepened, stretching across homes, streets, and hills. The Phalanx rested, not merely in body, but in mind and spirit. Sleep came slowly, rhythmically, a final echo of the march, the training, the battle, the day's calm exertions. And in the silence of night, the heartbeat of Sparta continued, a quiet, steady pulse that would awaken again with the first light of dawn. The morning sun rose higher over the hills surrounding Sparta, casting long muted shadows across the training grounds. The air was cool, touched with the faint scent of olive trees and damp earth. The young warriors had begun their day with the familiar rhythm of movement, each step a lesson, each motion a meditation. They ran across uneven terrain, bare feet gripping soil and rock, hips swaying with controlled energy, arms lifting and lowering in deliberate arcs. Each stride was measured, steady, synchronized with the slow cadence of breath and heartbeat. After the run, the boys climbed rocky outcrops, the rough stones scraping gently against skin and cloth. Every ascent was an exercise in balance and focus, a test of both physical strength and mental control. At the summit, they paused, gazing across the hills, the valley below, the distant city awakening under the sun. Here, in these quiet moments at the top of the world, the landscape itself became part of their training. The wind whispered across the rocks, rustling olive branches and grass, echoing the unspoken rhythm of the warriors' hearts. Returning to the training fields, the warriors picked up their spears once more. The metallic glint caught in soft light, but never harshly. Spears were lifted, thrust, rotated with calm precision, each motion measured against the next, each step part of the silent symphony of discipline. Shields rose and fell in gentle arcs, clashing softly with one another in practice, creating a muted chorus of wood and bronze. Even the sounds of exertion, the scrape of sandal against earth, the breath of youth, the soft tap of metal blended into the rhythm of the day, forming a cadence as steady as the tide. Small pauses punctuated the drills. Hands adjusted the grip on a spear. A shield strap was tightened, armor examined under the soft sunlight. In these pauses, there was reflection. Each warrior imagined himself in the Phalanx, a single link in a chain of unbroken unity, his motions entwined with those of comrades. His mind focused on the flow of the formation rather than the individual. The emphasis was never on personal glory, but on harmony, on the perfection of motion as one dot by mid-morning. The pre-battle rituals began. Each warrior moved slowly to a quiet corner, kneeling to offer oil, fruit, or grain to the gods. These gestures were performed with reverence and mindfulness, the hands tracing delicate patterns, the eyes lowered, the mind attuned to the sacred rhythm of preparation. Some men combed their long hair, smoothing it with slow, thoughtful strokes, letting the strands fall naturally before tying them back with cords of muted color. Red cloaks were draped carefully over shoulders, folded, adjusted, each fold a symbol of discipline and readiness. Bronze armor gleamed softly in the morning light, polished to a subtle shine, every scratch and curve attended to with care. The Phalanx then assembled in the open fields. Step by measured step, shields locked together, spears extended forward. Dust rose lazily with each synchronized movement, caught in sunlight to form halos around advancing figures. The rhythm of the march was hypnotic. Left foot, right foot, breathe, lift, advance. Time seemed suspended, elongated by the steady cadence of movement. Each man moved not only with awareness of himself, but of his neighbors, of the formation, of the invisible thread that bound hundreds of bodies into one living entity dot as the phalanx pressed forward. The battlefield took on a dreamlike quality. The soldiers became indistinguishable from one another, a wave of red and bronze moving slowly across green and gold fields. Spears glinted faintly. Shields formed continuous arcs of wood and metal. Dust drifted like mist, softening edges and blending forms. From a distance, the movement resembled reeds swaying in the wind, or birds gliding together across a quiet sky. The phalanx was less a group of men than a single organism, breathing, moving, existing as one. When the first engagement occurred, it was not violent in the conventional sense. The pressure of shields, the slow push of lines, the subtle sway of bodies created a rhythm that felt almost musical. No cries tore through the air. No frantic gestures disrupted the flow. Instead, there was weight and counterweight, push and release, advance and hold. The formation was steady, enduring, a slow-motion wave of strength and discipline. Each warrior was aware of the one beside him, the one behind him, the invisible unity of the entire phalanx guiding every action. Hours passed in this measured exertion. Shields were adjusted gently, fallen spears picked up with care, positions maintained with quiet diligence. Dust lingered in the air, sunlight caught in motes drifting across the scene, softening movement into a haze of rhythm and repetition. The battlefield became a living canvas of order, each gesture a brushstroke, each advance a line in a slow, deliberate poem. Observers would note no chaos, no disorder, only the unbroken continuity of disciplined motion, a study in harmony, endurance, and focused out as the day waned. The phalanx slowly withdrew, the rhythm of movement continuing, even as the engagement ended. Warriors walked back to camp, shields leaning lightly against their shoulders, spears carried with care. Broken weapons were gathered, armor inspected and repaired, bread and water shared quietly among comrades. The journey home traced the paths lined with olive trees, whose leaves brushed softly against red cloaks. Cicadas sang, wind whispered, and the fading sunlight painted the hills in muted gold and violet, echoing the serene cadence of the warriors' steps dotted camp. Fires glowed softly, illuminating bronze and red with a gentle warmth. Weapons were polished once more, armor adjusted, shields leaned carefully against benches. Some warriors reclined quietly, eyes tracing the flicker of flame, reflecting on the day, on their bodies, on the unity of the phalanx. Others engaged in soft conversation, laughter subdued and fleeting, absorbed into the rhythm of evening. Night fell gradually over Sparta, stars emerging slowly, casting dim light over rooftops and hills. The phalanx rested, not only in body, but in mind, the day's rhythm settling into sleep. Each breath, slow and even, echoed the steps, the drills, the march, the silent heartbeat of the formation itself. The afternoon sun hung low over the hills, casting a golden haze across the training fields and distant valleys. The Phalanx, having rehearsed for hours, began to move again, this time in simulated engagement, a slow, deliberate enactment of the flow and pressure of battle. Each step was measured, each motion precise, as though the earth itself required permission before yielding to the weight of disciplined men. Dust rose in gentle swirls around sandals and shields, caught in sunlight, turning the battlefield into a soft, shimmering canvas of bronze, red, and earth-dot spears were lifted and advanced, interlocking with shields in the continuous wall of the Phalanx. Each push forward was steady, each withdrawal controlled, as if the men were breathing together, each movement a reflection of the shared rhythm. The sound was muted yet musical, the tap of wood on bronze, the soft shuffle of sandals on earth, the faint whisper of wind through olive branches. There was no chaos, no sudden rush, only the slow, meditative pulse of coordinated motion, an orchestra of discipline and unity dot in this extended drill. The warriors moved through sequences repeatedly, each repetition a meditation in patience and endurance. They advanced, held, shifted, and pressed again, learning the subtleties of balance, leverage, and timing. The weight of shields pressed into bodies, the stretch of arms holding spears became familiar, comforting even, a tactile rhythm that connected them to one another and to the formation itself. Observers could watch endlessly without boredom, captivated by the slow, hypnotic flow of hundreds of bodies moving as one. Between these sequences, the men paused to repair small imperfections in their formation. A shield was nudged, a spear adjusted, a stance corrected. Each correction was done with soft hands, with awareness, with care. These small adjustments were as important as the larger movements, for they ensured that the Phalanx remained a single entity, a unit whose power came not from individual strength, but from unity and precise coordination. The sun continued its slow descent, casting elongated shadows across the field. Light flickered on bronze, glinting softly, muted by dust and distance. The red cloaks of the warriors flowed gently as they turned and shifted in unison, a river of color winding slowly across green and brown fields. The scene was dreamlike, part ritual, part rehearsal, part meditation, a vision of disciplined strength, as poetry in motion. As the simulated engagement continued, the men began to imagine the Phalanx in actual battle, not in fear or frenzy, but in controlled focus. They felt the subtle pressure of opposing lines, the slow give and take of contact, the delicate balance of pushing forward without breaking formation. Every sensation was heightened, the texture of soil beneath sandals, the slight give of wood and leather against their hands, the faint glint of sunlight on a neighbor's shield. The battlefield was alive, yet calm, and every motion carried purpose, every breath measured, every heartbeat synchronized with the rhythm of the group. By late afternoon, the Phalanx had moved across hills and fields repeatedly, each iteration slower, more deliberate, more reflective. They rested briefly, kneeling on the warm earth, adjusting their gear, touching bronze lightly to check for dents or scratches, smoothing cloth, folding cloaks. Even in rest, the rhythm continued, a quiet hum of anticipation and readiness, the pulse of the day carried forward into memory. The walk back to camp was long and unhurried. Olive trees lined the path, their leaves brushing softly against cloaks, casting dappled shadows on the ground. Cicadas sang intermittently. Wind whispered through branches, and the light softened into muted oranges, purples, and golds. The warriors carried themselves with calm dignity, their movements reflecting the discipline and unity that had defined the day. Conversations were quiet, gestures measured, laughter soft and fleeting, absorbed into the rhythm of returning home back to camp. Fires were lit slowly, the glow reflected in bronze and red. Some warriors polished armor once more, smoothing scratches and nicks, attending to each curve with care. Others repaired shields, adjusting straps and bindings, ensuring every piece was in its proper place. The work was deliberate, unhurried, each motion a continuation of the day's rhythm, each gesture part of the meditation that had carried them from dawn to dusk. Evening settled over the camp with soft hushes and gentle shadows. Stars emerged slowly, one by one, casting pale light over rooftops, tents, and olive groves. The warriors reclined quietly, observing flames, tracing shapes in the smoke, reflecting on the lessons of the day. There were no tales of glory or victory shouted aloud, only the serene acknowledgement of endurance, discipline, and unity. Sleep approached naturally, rhythmically, each breath a continuation of the march. The drills, the movements of the phalanx, echoing gently into the night. In this extended quiet, a phalanx existed beyond the physical form. It lived in memory, in thought, in the heartbeat of each man, in the collective pulse that bound hundreds into one. The city of Sparta, bathed in soft moonlight, seemed to echo this rhythm. Olive leaves rustled in gentle agreement. Rooftops and walls absorbed the calm. The hills held the shadows of long, deliberate steps. The day had moved through action and reflection, exertion and repair, rhythm and meditation, arriving finally at stillness and rest. The night was complete. Fires burned low, casting warm halos over camp. The warriors slept in measured positions. Shields leaned carefully nearby, red cloaks draped softly. Bronze glimmered faintly in the dim light. Each exhalation was long, even synchronized with the invisible rhythm of the phalanx, as if the heartbeat of Sparta itself had entered into sleep. And there, under the stars, the silent march continued, echoing across centuries, carrying the memory of discipline, unity, and the calm power of men moving together as one. The sun dipped lower, spilling a soft, honeyed light over the fields. Dust floated lazily, drifting through the air in gentle spirals, catching the sun's rays and turning them into faint golden threads. The phalanx formed once more, moving forward as a single organism, shields interlocked, spears angled forward. Every step was deliberate, every motion precise, measured against the invisible rhythm of the formation. Even in motion, there was calm, a quiet focus, a gentle awareness that every man was part of something larger, moving as one, breathing as one, thinking as one. The simulated battle stretched before them like a living tableau. Men pressed forward, felt the subtle resistance of opposing lines, shifted weight, adjusted footing. There were no screams, no frenzied gestures, only the slow push and counterbalance of bodies, the measured sway of shields, the gentle hum of exertion. Each action was observed carefully, corrected subtly, repeated in meditative rehearsal. The phalanx advanced as if the earth itself had synchronized to their pulse. Each step, each thrust, each breath a note in a silent, steady symphony. Time seemed suspended. Dust rose in soft columns. Sunlight filtered through and softened edges, turning motion into fluid waves of red, bronze, and muted green. The warriors moved slowly, rhythmically, like reeds swaying together in a field, or birds gliding in silent formation across a calm sky. The soundscape was minimal. Sandals brushing soil, wood on bronze, wind through the trees. Occasional soft exhalations, yet each sound contributed to the hypnotic rhythm of the phalanx dot in the midst of this slow, deliberate engagement. Warriors reflected on the essence of their discipline. The phalanx was more than a formation. It was unity, resilience, order, and harmony. Individual strength mattered, but only as it contributed to the greater whole. Every man's breath and step were part of a collective heartbeat, echoing through the fields, through Sparta, and into memory. Courage was not loud. It was measured, calm, deliberate, present in every subtle motion, in every patient exertion, in every controlled advance. Hours stretched in this rhythm, each repetition deepening the meditative trance. Spears were lowered, then lifted. Shields nudged, then pressed again. Lines held firm, then shifted gently forward. Dust lingered, sunlight faded slowly, and the battlefield became less of a place and more of a state of consciousness. A dreamlike meditation on motion, unity, and endurance. Observers could watch endlessly, captivated by the hypnotic sway of thousands of bodies moving in perfect unison dot as the light softened further, shadows lengthening across the hills and fields. The warriors began their slow return to camp. The march was unhurried, reflective, each step echoing the rhythm of the day's drills and formations. Olive trees lined the path, their leaves brushing gently against red cloaks. Cicadas sang faintly. The wind whispered through branches, and the fading sun painted hills in muted violet and gold. The return itself became a continuation of the meditation, a quiet affirmation of discipline, resilience, and shared purpose. At the camp, fires glowed softly, casting gentle light over bronze and red. Warriors repaired armor carefully, polished shields, adjusted straps. Some sat quietly, gazing into flames, tracing shapes in the smoke, reflecting on the day's exercises, the unity of the phalanx, the slow rhythm of battle and rehearsal. Others engaged in muted conversation, laughter soft and transient, absorbed into the gentle cadence of evening. Every motion, even in rest, maintained the calm meditative rhythm that had defined the day. Night deepened. Stars emerged slowly, one by one, casting pale silver light over rooftops, olive groves, and hills. The camp was silent, save for occasional soft whispers or the gentle clink of bronze. Warriors reclined, bodies heavy with exertion, minds quiet, breathing slow and steady. Sleep approached naturally, rhythmically, each exhalation in harmony with the silent heartbeat of the phalanx. Even as they rested, the formation persisted in memory, in thought, in the collective consciousness of Sparta, a unity carried across centuries, a rhythm echoing softly into the night dot in these quiet hours. The phalanx transcended its physical form. It lived in the land, in the olive trees, in the distant hills, in the soft rustle of leaves, in the whispering wind. The discipline, courage, and unity of the men became timeless, a slow, meditative pulse that echoed through the stillness. And there, under the vast, silent sky, with fires glowing softly and warriors breathing evenly, the silent march continued, eternal and serene, a testament to the calm, enduring power of men moving together as one. Night deepened over Sparta, and a hush settled across the city and surrounding hills. The air was cool and still, scented faintly with olive trees, earth, and distant herbs carried by the soft evening breeze. Shadows stretched long and quiet, merging into the muted forms of roofs, walls, and paths. Even the cicadas seemed to slow their song, their chirping fading into the soft pulse of the night. It was a time of reflection, of letting the day's rhythm settle gently into memory. The warriors moved slowly through the camp, each gesture deliberate, unhurried. Shields leaned quietly against benches, polished bronze, catching the last glimmer of fading light. Spears were gathered with care, laid in neat lines, their tips aligned with almost ritualistic precision. Red cloaks draped softly across benches or over shoulders, absorbing the glow of small fires that burned gently, casting a warm halo over faces and armor. Everything was tended with calm attention. Nothing was hurried, nothing left to chance. Some warriors reclined near the fires, gazing into the gentle flicker of flames. The movement of smoke traced arcs into the darkening sky, curling and stretching slowly, as if following the rhythm of their own breathing. Each breath was measured, deep, slow, a continuation of the day's cadence. Eyes traced shapes in the smoke, reflecting on the phalanx, the training, the silent march across hills and fields, the weight of bronze and wood pressing into arms, shoulders, and hearts. These quiet moments, unspoken and slow, held the essence of the discipline that had carried them from dawn to night. Others knelt softly at small altars or in quiet corners, offering gestures to the gods, a handful of grain, a drop of oil, a whispered prayer. These actions, like all of their movements, were meditative, rhythmic, steeped in a sense of presence and reverence. There was no hurry, no need for outward acknowledgement. Each gesture was a reflection of the inner discipline, a calm unity that defined the Spartan way, a rhythm as slow and steady as the pulse of the earth itself. As the hour deepened, warriors prepared for rest. Cloaks were folded, armor removed with gentle care, shields placed within reach. Sleep was approached not as exhaustion, but as the final continuation of the day's rhythm. Limbs relaxed, muscles settling, the mind softening. Every breath aligned with the shared heartbeat of the phalanx. Every exhale a gentle echo of the steps, thrusts, lifts, and advances of the day. The camp was alive with this subtle rhythm, quiet but persistent, a shared meditation in presence and endurance. The hills surrounding Sparta caught the soft glow of moonlight, silver and muted, spilling over olive groves, fields, and quiet streets. Shadows softened, contours blurred, colors muted. The city itself seemed to breathe in unison with the sleeping warriors, the pulse of training, discipline, and unity flowing quietly into the night. Each tree, each stone, each distant hill seemed to absorb the calm rhythm, holding it softly until dawn in the deepest hours. The Phalanx existed only in memory and thought. The long, silent march across hills, the gentle pressure of shields, the slow glint of bronze in sunlight, the soft dust rising with each step. All these moments merged into a single, quiet heartbeat. Courage and unity were not loud. They were present in every subtle motion, every pause, every breath. The rhythm of the Phalanx carried on silently, an eternal echo across time, linking the men of Sparta to one another, to the city, to the land, and to history itself. Even as the city slept, the memory of the march remained. Olive trees swayed gently in the night wind, the soft rustle of leaves echoing the movement of shields. Fires burned low, casting halos over benches, tents, and resting bodies. Bronze glimmered faintly in the muted light. Red cloaks draped quietly. The heartbeat of the Phalanx persisted in the quiet, slow, meditative rhythm that had guided men from dawn through training, battle, and reflection. The night deepened further, stretching across the hills, the city, and the valleys beyond. The world was still, held in the soft tension between what had been and what would come with dawn. Each warrior slept lightly, bodies and minds aligned with the cadence of the day. The rhythm, the unity, the silent march of the Phalanx continued, imperceptible but undeniable, a testament to endurance, to discipline, to the serene power of men moving together as one dot as stars traced slow arcs across the sky. The final reflections of the day settled into place. The Phalanx was more than formation. It was order, harmony, and continuity. Each movement, each repetition, each gesture of care had been a meditation, a preparation not only for battle, but for life. The march, repeated endlessly, echoed through the hills, through memory, through time itself. And in the quiet, under moonlight and stars, the silent march endured, timeless, serene, eternal. Finally, the world lay in stillness. The fires dimmed to embers. The night held all in calm embrace, and the warriors slept. Step by step, breath by breath, shield by shield, spear by spear, the rhythm of the Phalanx continued. Not loud, not hurried, not frantic, but slow, steady, unwavering. Across the city, across the fields, across the hills and valleys of Sparta, the heartbeat of unity and discipline carried on, a timeless meditation in presence, courage, and the serene power of moving together as one. And so the night passed quietly. The city, the hills, the olive trees, and the sleeping men remained bound by the invisible rhythm of the day. And when dawn would come again, the Phalanx would rise, repeat, march, and endure, in silence, in unity, in eternal calm. The first light of dawn spread slowly over Sparta, brushing pale gold and soft rose across the hills and olive groves. The city itself remained quiet, as if holding its breath, waiting for the day to unfold in its measured rhythm. Soft winds carried the faint scent of damp earth and olive leaves, mingling with the distant town of herbs that grew along the hillsides. Birds stirred quietly, flitting among branches, their movements deliberate and unhurried, adding gentle rustling and distant song to the calm hush of the awakening city. Along the narrow streets, sandstone and clay buildings absorbed the first light, their surfaces muted, warm, almost luminous in the stillness. A lone figure moved slowly, sandals brushing against the cool stone, carrying the faint weight of a shield and spear. Every step was precise, each motion reflecting the discipline instilled through years of training. Doors opened softly, and others emerged, their red cloaks brushing against walls as they stepped into the early morning. The city breathed with them, each building, each pathway, each tree absorbing the rhythm of human presence in silence dotted the streams that traced gentle paths through the valley. Warriors gathered. Water glistened like liquid crystal in the dawn, spilling over smooth stones and weaving through reeds. Here they paused, washing faces, dipping hands slowly into the cool flow, feeling the river slide across skin. The sensation was delicate, almost sacred, a quiet communion with the land that nurtured them. Hair was combed in deliberate, careful strokes, long strands smoothed and tied, prepared for the disciplined movement that would fill the day. Each warrior moved as if in meditation, aware of the water, the light, the sound, and the gentle rhythm of their own breath. With the first warmth of the sun, they gathered in the fields for the day's agoj. The grass was damp with dew, soft underfoot, each blade bending and releasing as feet pressed against it. Warriors ran slowly across uneven terrain, their movements deliberate. Arms lifted and fell in measured arcs, hips swaying with control, breath deep and even. Every stride was a lesson, each footfall a connection to the earth, each step a rehearsal of patience, endurance, and unity. The hills rose and fell, and as they climbed, the landscape unfolded beneath them in muted layers of green and gold, shadows stretching and folding gently in the soft morning light dot at the hilltops. They paused. Each man looked out over the city, the valley, the distant peaks, and the olive groves swaying in quiet wind. Here, in stillness, the body learned balance, and the mind reflected on the day ahead. The sound of leaves rustling, of distant water, of sandal against stone, became a slow, gentle chorus. Every inhale and exhale aligned with the rhythm of the surroundings, echoing the quiet pulse of the land itself. Descending the hills, the warriors engaged in detailed spear and shield exercises. Each thrust was slow, measured, deliberate. Each lift of the shield precise, exact, deliberate. The metallic glint of bronze caught the soft sunlight, muted by dust and distance, reflecting the gentle arcs of movement. Shields collided softly, wood pressing against wood, bronze against bronze, producing a quiet, steady percussion. The sound was gentle, rhythmic, almost musical, an orchestra of calm discipline. Pairs of warriors faced one another, thrusting, deflecting, advancing, retreating. Movements repeated over and over, forming a slow, meditative rhythm. Errors were corrected gently, motions adjusted subtly, positions refined with care. Each repetition reinforced presence, awareness, and unity. There was no rush, no urgency, only the slow, precise unfolding of skill, strength, and harmony docked between drills. There were quiet pauses. Hands rested on spear shafts. Arms lifted shields lightly. Eyes scanned the formation. Breaths were deep and slow, aligned with the collective pulse of the group. The men reflected silently, feeling the subtle weight of their bodies, the tension of muscles, the gentle resistance of the earth beneath them, and the soft pressure of bronze against flesh. These sensations were noted with awareness, woven into the rhythm that carried them forward, building strength, discipline, and meditation simultaneously. As the morning progressed, the warriors moved into larger formations. Lines of shields stretched across the fields, spears angled forward, red cloaks draping in muted waves. Step by deliberate step, the phalanx advanced, each footfall part of the slow, hypnotic rhythm that had carried them from dawn. Dust rose gently, illuminated by the sun, drifting lazily in the air like fine golden mist. Spears formed continuous arcs, shields interlocked seamlessly, and the formation moved as one, a single body breathing, advancing, and holding in perfect harmony. The landscape itself seemed to respond. Olive trees swayed in gentle rhythm. Hills rolled under soft light, and distant mountains reflected a muted haze. Even the birds and insects seemed to move in accordance with the phalanx, the wind-tracing arcs that echoed the motion of spears and shields. Every element, man, earth, sky, air, existed together in slow, meditative unity. The warriors paused once more to attend to small imperfections. A strap was tightened on a shield, a spear adjusted slightly, a stance corrected. Each correction was careful, precise, and deliberate, reinforcing the principle that every motion mattered, no matter how small. These pauses were themselves meditative, quiet opportunities to align body, mind, and formation. By midday, the sun had climbed higher, spilling warm light over the fields. Shadows softened, colors muted, and the phalanx began a series of extended marching exercises. Step by step, shield against shield, spear angled forward, they advanced slowly, rhythmically, meditatively. Dust rose in gentle swirls. Sunlight caught the particles, forming halos around their feet. Each movement was repeated again and again, each repetition a deeper immersion in rhythm, unity, and endurance. Breath and heartbeat synchronized across the formation. The push and hold of shields, the gentle pressure of spears, the sway of bodies in unison, all became part of a meditative flow. Warriors reflected internally, aware of themselves, their comrades, the land, and the passage of time. Every step was a connection to the earth, every glance a connection to history, every motion a thread in the tapestry of Spartan discipline. The sun continued its slow climb, spilling a soft, golden haze over the fields of Sparta. Each blade of grass reflected a subtle glimmer, bending gently beneath the weight of dew and the careful steps of young warriors. The air was faintly fragrant with earth and herbs, olive trees whispering quietly as the wind traced gentle arcs through their leaves. The city beyond remained muted and still, as if honoring the rhythm of the training, giving space for the phalanx to unfold across the hills in measured motion. The warriors formed once again, rows stretching across fields, shields interlocked in precise alignment. Spears were leveled forward, their tips catching sunlight in muted flashes, not bright, not harsh, but gentle reflections of bronze and wood. Every step was slow, deliberate, rehearsed to perfection. The march itself became a meditation, Left foot, right foot, shield held firmly, spear angled forward, breath drawn evenly, heartbeat steady. Dust rose softly beneath sandals, drifting lazily in sunlight, curling in delicate spirals like smoke, weaving itself into the rhythm of motion. Pairs of warriors moved through drills in near silence, speaking only in whispers if correction was required. One man advanced while the other absorbed the pressure, shields pressed together, spears meeting briefly, angles adjusted, arms flexing and releasing. Each motion repeated dozens of times, forming a hypnotic cycle. Lift, thrust, press, advance, hold, retreat, breathe. Repetition was not monotony. It was meditation. It was the shaping of the body and mind, the weaving of strength, focus, and unity into every fiber of muscle, bone, and sinew. The landscape itself seemed to bend to the rhythm of the training. Olive trees swayed gently, as if moved by invisible currents of the Phalanx's discipline. Hillsides undulated softly under the sunlight. The distant mountains blurred into watercolor haze, and the river near the valley murmured quietly, a gentle accompaniment to the soft percussion of shields and sandals. Even the birds moved with the day's measured tempo, wings beating gently, dipping and rising in long, deliberate arcs, as though mimicking the careful advance of the warriors below. Time stretched and folded. Midday approached, but there was no urgency, no rush. The warriors moved from one set of drills to another. Spear thrusts, shield lifts, defensive angles, rapid step transitions, all performed slowly and mindfully. Small adjustments were made with care. A strap tightened, a stance refined, a spear angle corrected. Every micro-movement held significance. Each repetition reinforced awareness, discipline, and presence. The Phalanx was not merely a formation, but a living meditation. Each body a single note, each line a chord in a slow, enduring harmony dot between drills. Moments of pause allowed reflection. Warriors knelt softly on the damp grass, hands resting on spears, heads bowed briefly, eyes tracing patterns in the clouds above. They inhaled the warm, scented air of olive groves, feeling sun on shoulders, the texture of leather, the cool touch of metal. Muscles relaxed, but the mind remained aware, alert yet calm, attentive yet unhurried. In these pauses, the discipline of the agoge extended beyond physicality. It became thought, presence, meditation, and memory dot. After several cycles of repetition, the Phalanx advanced across the fields in full formation. Shields pressed together to form a seamless wall. Spears projected forward like extensions of their own bodies. Step by step, the long line of men moved across sunlit hills, dust rising softly, forming faint halos around their sandals. The movement was rhythmic, steady, hypnotic. Observers could see the wave of bronze, the flowing red cloaks, the faint glint of spear tips, yet it was impossible to distinguish one man from another. They moved as a single entity, breathing as one, advancing as one, thinking as one. The individual dissolved into the unity of the Phalanx. The heat of the sun warmed their backs, but exertion was measured. Energy distributed evenly, motion flowing smoothly. Dust mingled with sunlight, glinting faintly, blurring edges, softening motion into dreamlike waves of color and form. Small birds flitted above, following the movement of shadows, wings rising and falling in gentle arcs. The landscape itself seemed suspended, softened, harmonized with the rhythm of men and earth. That internal thoughts echoed the slow pace. Warriors reflected on each step, each lift of shield, each precise angle of spear. Courage was quiet. It was patience, unity, awareness. Fear was not banished, but softened, observed, and incorporated into the rhythm of controlled motion. Each man understood his place within the whole, the significance of presence, of measured strength, of rhythm sustained over hours, days, years. Time became a fluid current, carrying body and mind along its slow, deliberate course. As the afternoon sun moved west, the Phalanx pressed further into the rolling hills. Lines shifted imperceptibly, each adjustment deliberate. Shields were nudged, spears angled differently, arms flexed slowly to absorb subtle changes in pressure. The repetition became layered. Step, thrust, breathe, hold, relax, advance. A cycle that could continue endlessly without strain. Every movement was imbued with awareness, every gesture part of a continuous meditation. The battlefield, though imaginary in practice, became sacred, a space where harmony and discipline were visible in motion. The hills surrounding, the fields began to catch the light differently, long shadows stretching across olive groves and rocky outcrops. Dust rose in soft spirals, mingling with warm sunlight to form faint golden veils. The Phalanx moved through this haze, each line gliding, advancing, holding, retreating, as if the earth itself had slowed its rotation to match the rhythm of their steps. The scene was dreamlike, almost suspended in time, bronze glinting softly, red cloaks undulating like water, sunlight filtering through olive leaves, shadows stretching endlessly. Small pauses allowed reflection on endurance and unity. Warriors knelt on hillsides, tracing shapes in the dirt, fingers brushing over patterns left by sandals, spears, and sticks. They observed the movement of clouds, the rustle of leaves, the gentle trickle of streams. Each sensory detail became part of the meditation. The scent of damp earth, the warmth of sun, the faint clink of bronze, the sound of sandals brushing grass. In these details, the Phalanx persisted, not as a formation, but as a living presence, a rhythm embodied in body, mind, and environment. The afternoon sun had moved further west, painting the hills and olive groves in muted gold and amber. Shadows lengthened, folding softly over the rolling landscape, and a gentle warmth bathed the warriors as they resumed their drills. Dust, stirred by sandals and shields, hung lazily in the air, illuminated by the sunlight in faint, drifting ribbons. The world seemed suspended, each sound softened, each movement slowed, as if time itself had adjusted to the rhythm of Sparta's disciplined pulse. The Phalanx reformed across the fields, lines stretching wide, shields interlocked seamlessly, spears angled forward with careful precision. Step by step, the men advanced, holding formation with meticulous care. There was no haste, no sudden movement, only the slow, deliberate cadence of breath, footfall, and heartbeat. The clink of bronze against bronze was soft, rhythmic, a quiet percussion that harmonized with the whispering wind and distant rustle of olive leaves. Pairs and small groups moved through drills, each repetition extended, exaggerated even, to emphasize awareness and precision. Spears were thrust forward slowly, shield edges pressed together gently but firmly. Movements repeated over and over, teaching patience, coordination, and endurance. Mistakes were corrected quietly, adjustments made with care, hands and eyes attentive, fingers brushing leather and metal. Every micro-movement became part of the meditation, part of the rhythm, part of the invisible music that guided the phalanx. The men began to shift in formation, turning slowly, advancing in undulating lines across the sun-dappled fields. Dust rose softly, trailing in delicate spirals, drifting through sunlight like golden threads. Red cloaks flowed gently with each movement, resembling slow, undulating rivers of muted crimson against the soft greens and browns of the landscape. The pattern of motion was hypnotic, almost dreamlike. Shields pressed forward in unbroken waves, spears glinting faintly, feet moving in unison, breath measured and even dot. As they advanced, the phalanx navigated small hills, uneven terrain, and the occasional rocky outcrop. Each adjustment required awareness, subtle shifts of weight, careful alignment of shields and spears. The warriors moved as if the land itself guided them, their motions merging seamlessly with the contours of the hills, the gentle slopes, the soft folds of grass. The soundscape remained minimal yet musical, sandals brushing soil, wood against bronze. The quiet exhalation of steady breath, leaves rustling softly in the wind. Rest periods between drills were extended, allowing the men to reflect on each repetition. Sun melt on dew-soft grass, tracing patterns with fingers, adjusting a strap, smoothing a cloak. Others stood quietly, gazing across the fields, observing the slow sway of olive trees, the distant shimmer of mountains, the movement of clouds drifting lazily across the sky. Every sensation was amplified, every detail absorbed. The warmth of sunlight on skin, the gentle pressure of shields in hand, the subtle give of leather and bronze under fingers, the delicate fragrance of olive groves and earth. The phalanx then practiced the silent advance, a slow, deliberate march designed to simulate the approach to battle without chaos. Step by step, shields locked, spears angled, the line moved forward like a single living organism. Dust trailed softly behind, sunlight glinting faintly on bronze and wood. Movement was synchronized with breath, each inhale and exhale matching a footfall. A lift of shield, a shift of spear. The rhythm was hypnotic, almost musical, extending the meditation of the morning into a deeper, more encompassing awareness of motion, presence, and unity. Even internal thoughts flowed with this rhythm. Each warrior reflected on his place within the formation, the strength of his neighbors, the balance of the line. Courage was quiet, awareness persistent, patience infinite. Each step reinforced unity. Each adjustment reinforced discipline. Each repetition deepened the meditative state. The phalanx was no longer merely a formation of men. It was a single living entity, a manifestation of collective focus, endurance, and serene power. The sun dipped lower, spilling muted light across the hills, casting long, gentle shadows that stretched and folded over olive groves and fields. The Phalanx continued its exercises, slowly transitioning to defensive maneuvers, shifting stances, absorbing imagined pressure, retreating in perfect unison, then advancing again. Movements repeated, layer upon layer, until the warriors could feel the rhythm in their muscles, their breath, their heartbeat, and beyond that, in the subtle vibration of the earth beneath their sandals. Small moments of meditation were interwoven into the drills. A hand brushed across the surface of a shield, tracing the worn edges, feeling the cool metal, acknowledging the history embedded in its bronze. A spear was angled slightly, tip catching sunlight, reflecting faintly like a distant star. The men observed one another silently, adjusting positions, sharing subtle signals through the tilt of a head, the shift of weight, the placement of a foot. Presence and awareness permeated every motion, every gesture, every breath dot by late afternoon. The Phalanx practiced the wave advance, a flowing motion where the entire line moved as if carried by an invisible current. Shields pressed, spears projected, lines shifted forward and backward in gentle undulations. Dust spiraled softly, sunlight glinted across the moving bronze, red cloaks fluttered faintly in the wind. The movement was hypnotic, continuous, almost endless, a meditation on unity, endurance, and the power of coordinated, deliberate action. Even the landscape participated in this rhythm. Olive trees swayed, hills rolled gently, shadows stretched and contracted, and distant mountains softened into muted watercolor shapes. Birds moved slowly, arcs of flight mirroring the wave of shields below. Streams glistened in the sun, reflecting subtle movements of men and nature alike. Each element, man, earth, air, and light, merged into a unified meditation, a living, breathing canvas of slow, deliberate harmony dot. As the late afternoon sun softened, the Phalanx began its simulated engagement. The battlefield, though imaginary, was alive with presence. Gentle hills rolled beneath the formation, patches of olive trees swayed quietly, and dust rose softly from the earth with every careful step. Spears glinted faintly in muted sunlight, shields interlocked to form seamless walls of bronze and wood, and red cloaks flowed in undulating patterns that echoed the gentle waves of the terrain. Each motion was deliberate. The advance was slow, measured, rhythmical, each step and thrust performed with meditative precision. Shields pressed against shields, forming a living barrier that moved as a single organism. Spear tips projected forward, catching light softly, angled to anticipate movement, yet motionless in its calm and unhurried focus. There was no chaos, no fury, only the steady, hypnotic rhythm of countless bodies moving in perfect harmony. Dust rose in soft columns, curling gently in the sunlight, drifting in patterns that mirrored the slow sway of the formation. The wind whispered through olive trees, brushing leaves against one another, and distant birds traced long arcs in the sky, their flight synchronized, it seemed, with the movement below. Each step produced a gentle percussion, sandals brushing soil, shields nudging together, spears tilting forward. The soundscape was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet it created a rhythmic symphony that resonated with the pulse of the Phalanx. Small adjustments were made continuously, with calm awareness. A shield tilted slightly, a spear shaft angled differently, A foot shifted to absorb the pressure of a neighbor. Every micro-movement was noted, corrected, integrated into the flow. The men moved in unison, each aware of the other, each synchronized to the collective heartbeat of the line. Courage, endurance, and discipline were not expressed in loud gestures. They were embedded in every subtle, precise, intentional motion. The advance continued across the hills, each undulation of terrain shaping the rhythm of the formation. At times, the phalanx paused to adjust, to correct alignment, to breathe in unison. The moment of stillness was itself a meditation, a quiet acknowledgement of presence, a reinforcement of the unity that defined them. In these pauses, warriors observed the landscape, the gentle sway of trees, the shimmer of sunlight on bronze, the slow drift of clouds across the sky. Every detail was absorbed, every sensation noted, every movement integrated into the ongoing rhythm of the phalanx dot. As shadows lengthened, the simulation became more complex. Sections of the line advanced, while others held position, absorbing imaginary pressure, yielding slowly, and advancing again. Dust rose in faint spirals, catching the amber light of the setting sun. The phalanx moved like a tide, advancing and retreating in gentle, hypnotic waves. Each motion was repeated slowly, over and over, until it became a seamless rhythm, a meditation in movement, a reflection of endurance and shared discipline. Internal thoughts and awareness flowed gently with the rhythm. Each warrior was conscious of his body, his neighbor, the line, the formation, the landscape. Fear, if present, was softened, acknowledged, and incorporated into the slow, deliberate flow. Courage was quiet, measured, a steady pulse that echoed in each step, each shield press, each measured advance. The phalanx was a living organism, its heartbeat expressed not in speed or force, but in the quiet harmony of motion, sustained over hours, in unbroken continuity, in the meditative discipline of repetition. The battle simulation continued into early evening. The sun dipped low, spilling soft violet and gold across hills and olive groves. Shadows elongated, colors muted, dust settling into soft layers across the ground. The phalanx, though still engaged in drills, seemed almost ethereal, bronze and red blending into the landscape, motion and stillness intertwined, the rhythm of men and earth synchronized. The world itself appeared to slow, to pause, to breathe gently with the advancing line. Pauses between sequences were long and deliberate. Warriors adjusted shields, recentered spears, straightened stances. Fingers brushed bronze and leather, polishing, smoothing, feeling the texture, tracing history embedded in the objects. Breaths were deep, steady, synchronized across lines. The rhythm persisted even in stillness, an invisible pulse that carried the meditation of the day into the approaching night dot. As dusk approached, the phalanx engaged in the final sequences of the simulated engagement. The wave of motion became more complex, incorporating turns, shifts, subtle feints, and slow retreats. Each element of the drill was performed with hypnotic repetition. Step, press, thrust, hold, retreat, breathe. Movement was continuous, yet unhurried, disciplined yet fluid, meditative yet precise. The dust, the light, the olive groves, the distant hills, all merged into the experience, weaving landscape, body, and breath into a unified rhythm. The setting sun cast long, gentle shadows across the battlefield. The Phalanx, moving slowly, carefully, pressed forward one last time before gradually winding down the exercise. Red cloaks fluttered faintly, bronze glinted softly, and shields rested against one another with quiet acknowledgement of the day's efforts. The movement slowed, then paused, then ceased entirely. Dust settled, sunlight faded, and the field was bathed in a soft, muted glow. Warriors knelt, sat, or stood quietly, allowing the rhythm to settle into their bodies. Every muscle, every joint, every fiber held the memory of motion, repetition, and discipline. Even as they rested, the pulse of the Phalanx continued in mind and body, a gentle, enduring meditation. The day's practice, the advance, the retreat, the wave, the silent march, all persisted as a slow, calming echo, a reflection of unity, courage, and timeless presence. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Sparta settled into a softer, muted rhythm. The hills and olive groves were bathed in pale gold fading to soft violet, shadows stretching long and fluid across the fields. The Phalanx had concluded its exercises, and the warriors moved slowly through the camp, each motion deliberate, unhurried, and deeply aware of the tactile, sensory world around them. Cloaks were folded with careful precision, shields leaned against benches in perfect alignment, and spears were set gently into the soft earth, their bronze tips catching the last glimmer of fading light. Fires were lit gradually, small flames flickering and casting soft, dancing halos across the resting warriors. Smoke rose lazily, curling in delicate arcs into the evening air, carrying with it the faint scent of olive wood and dry herbs. Each warrior attended to his armor and weapons with quiet devotion, polishing bronze, smoothing leather, adjusting straps, and observing the careful symmetry of the Phalanx's formation even in stillness. The ritual was both practical and meditative, a final exercise in presence and care that mirrored the rhythm of the day. Some warriors reclined near the fires, observing the gentle glow as it shifted across shields, spears, and red cloaks. The flames flickered in patterns that mimicked the movement of the Phalanx, rising and falling, advancing and retreating in silent waves. Hands rested on knees or shield edges, fingers tracing textures of metal and leather, feeling the subtle contours, and recalling the countless repetitions of the day. Breath was deep, slow, aligned with the pulse of the earth. Each exhale a quiet echo of the morning's march and afternoon's maneuvers. Soft conversations emerged, spoken in hushed tones, barely audible above the gentle crackle of fire and the whisper of wind through olive leaves. Words were sparse, deliberate, carrying reflections on the day's exercises, thoughts on discipline, and quiet musings on courage and unity. Laughter, when it appeared, was subdued, soft as the distant rustle of trees, adding warmth without disturbing the meditative rhythm. Even in speech, presence and awareness governed each motion, each tone, each pause. As night deepened, the warriors moved to their resting spaces. Tents were approached slowly, footprints pressing gently into dew-soft grass. Cloaks were spread carefully, blankets arranged in precise folds, armor laid aside for the comfort of rest. Sleep was not hurried, not forced, but approached as a continuation of the day's meditation, deliberate, calm, rhythmic. The body relaxed gradually, each limb releasing tension, each breath slowing, aligning with the heartbeat of the formation, the pulse of the earth, and the rhythm of time itself. The camp was alive with subtle motion. Shadows from the fires flickered across tents and armor, moving in synchrony with the gentle sway of trees. Smoke drifted softly, weaving arcs through cool evening air. The distant hills captured fading light in muted gradients, blending golds, purples, and blues into the quiet landscape. The olive groves whispered with the wind, and occasional night birds traced slow, deliberate paths through the sky. Every element of the camp, every detail of nature, merged seamlessly into the rhythm of the warrior's presence. Individual meditations continued even in stillness. Hands rested on shields, fingers brushing over metal edges. Eyes traced patterns of shadows and light. Minds reflected on the discipline, courage, and unity that defined their lives. Internal echoes of the day's marches, drills, and simulated battle continued to reverberate. The subtle pressure of shields, the steady advance of feet, the glint of bronze under sunlight, the rhythmic wave of red cloaks, all persisted as a slow, enduring meditation. The moon rose gradually, silver and pale, casting soft light across the hills and fields. The world held its breath in quiet awe, each star a faint pulse in the deepening night. The warriors, wrapped in cloaks or lying gently on blankets, breathed in unison with the rhythm of the earth. Even sleep was synchronized with the cadence of the day. Dreams intertwined with the memory of shields pressed together, spears angled, steps measured, dust rising softly beneath sandals, and the quiet hum of olive trees. Time became fluid, indistinguishable from breath and heartbeat. Minutes and hours stretched and folded, each moment a meditation, each pause a reflection, each movement a repetition of the eternal rhythm of the Phalanx. Courage and discipline persisted, not as actions, but as presence. The unity of the line, once visible in motion, now existed quietly in memory, in breath, in the steady, unbroken heartbeat of men, of earth, and of Sparta itself. Even as night deepened into the earliest hours before dawn, the camp remained alive with invisible pulse. Fingers brushed bronze, shields shifted minutely, cloaks swayed with the wind, and soft exhalations echoed in the hush. The Phalanx, though at rest, persisted as a living rhythm, as a meditation carried in body, mind, and spirit. The memory of motion, the awareness of presence, the unity of breath, shield, and spear, all continued to flow in slow, hypnotic continuity. The world seemed to expand in depth and texture. Olive groves shimmered in moonlight, shadows blended with muted earth tones, stars reflected faintly on the edges of bronze and leather, and distant hills receded into gentle haze. Every sound, a whisper of wind, a distant bird, the soft sigh of a resting warrior, was magnified in its clarity, becoming part of the subtle symphony that filled the night. Sleep and meditation intertwined, creating a state of serene presence that encompassed both body and spirit, bridging the day's rhythm with the timelessness of night. In this quiet, the Phalanx existed beyond form. Each warrior, though resting individually, remained intrinsically connected to the whole. The meditation of motion, discipline, and unity carried into the subconscious, embedding itself into breath, heartbeat, and memory. The rhythm of the line, advancing, holding, retreating, pausing, breathing, persisted across time, echoing softly in the olive groves, in the hills, in the muted gleam of bronze, and in the red folds of cloaks swaying gently in the night wind. Night deepened over Sparta, and the camp settled into a profound, quiet rhythm. Each warrior lay on blankets or leaned against shields, bodies heavy with fatigue, yet alive with subtle awareness. Breaths deepened and slowed, rising and falling in gentle waves, carrying the memory of the day's motion, the march, the drills, the simulated battle, into the realm of sleep. The pulse of the phalanx continued quietly within each body, a soft echo threading through muscle, sinew, and bone. Dreams arose gently, not chaotic or violent, but reflections of the day's discipline. A warrior might see himself advancing with the line, shields pressed seamlessly, spears angled forward, red cloaks fluttering softly in wind-drawn patterns. Dust rose in slow spirals, sunlight glinted faintly on bronze, and olive trees swayed quietly in muted rhythm. Every motion was slow, deliberate, hypnotic, and infused with calm presence. In dreams, the phalanx became a living river of motion, a meditation embodied, a reflection of unity and endurance. The night air was cool, carrying faint scents of olive, earth, and smoke from dying embers. Fingers brushed against leather and bronze in unconscious memory. Palms rested lightly on shield edges, and ears caught the soft whisper of wind through leaves. These subtle sensations intertwined with the rhythm of dreams, blending past motion, present stillness, and the imagination of the future into a continuous, slow meditation. Each warrior, while asleep, remained in harmony with the formation, connected through invisible threads of breath, heartbeat, and presence. Time flowed differently at night. Minutes and hours folded upon themselves in gentle, unhurried succession. Sleep deepened, yet awareness lingered faintly, a quiet echo of the day's discipline. Thoughts drifted in soft arcs, reflections on courage, on unity, on the precision of motion, and the weight of responsibility. Every detail of training, every step of the phalanx, every tilt of a shield, every angle of a spear persisted, amplified by the mind's gentle focus. In this way, sleep was not a cessation, but a continuation of meditation, of living, breathing, dreaming extension of the day. The camp itself seemed to breathe in synchrony with the warriors. Shadows shifted gently in moonlight. Fires glowed faintly and pulsed with their own rhythm. Smoke curled and drifted in slow arcs. The olive groves whispered softly, leaves brushing leaves in delicate percussion. Distant hills appeared softened, muted, blending into the night's watercolor palette. Every sound, the faint murmur of water, the rustle of cloth, the soft exhalation of rest, became part of the ambient rhythm, a gentle accompaniment to the internal meditation carried by the sleeping warriors. Some dreams were vivid yet serene. A warrior might recall a morning's march, the precise interlocking of shields, the subtle coordination of steps, the gentle pressure of a neighbor's arm, the alignment of spear points in the sunlit field. Others might see themselves in motion across imaginary hills, advancing slowly and rhythmically, waves of bronze and red flowing in perfect harmony. The dreamscape merged seamlessly with memory, practice, and imagination, each reinforcing the principles of discipline, unity, and meditative presence. As night deepened further, reflections became more abstract, more philosophical. Warriors, even in sleep, carried the echo of centuries. The agoge, the training of youth, the rhythm of the phalanx, the values of courage and cohesion. They felt themselves part of something larger than individual existence, connected to the lineage of warriors who had walked the hills of Sparta before them, who had advanced in step, held the line, and rested under the same stars. Each breath, each heartbeat, each trained thread resonated with this enduring rhythm, tying the present to the past in a slow, meditative continuum. The moon cast soft silver light over the camp. Shadows from tents and trees blended seamlessly into the muted earth. Stars shimmered faintly, scattered across the sky like points of memory, glimmering softly upon bronze and leather. The quiet was profound, almost tactile, wrapping around each warrior like a gentle cloak. Sleep deepened, but it was not inert. Awareness, rhythm, and discipline persisted quietly beneath the surface, a slow, continuous meditation threading through every pulse, every breath, every dream. Even in the earliest hours before dawn, the camp remained alive with subtle motion. Fingers flexed, shields shifted minutely, cloaks fluttered softly in the breeze. In dreams, warriors advanced again in slow, hypnotic cadence. Shields pressed, spears angled, feet stepped rhythmically across imagined terrain. The phalanx existed beyond form, beyond the waking world, as a living meditation sustained in body, mind, and spirit. The memory of motion, the unity of breath, the alignment of spear and shield, all continued to flow in gentle, unbroken continuity, echoing softly across hills, olive groves, and fields. The night was timeless. Every sensation, the warmth of blankets, the cool touch of air on skin, the faint pressure of resting shields, the gentle whisper of the wind, became magnified in clarity. Breath and heartbeat harmonized with the rhythm of the phalanx, extending meditation beyond the constraints of wakefulness. Courage, discipline, and unity persisted invisibly, embodied in the subconscious, carried through dreams, and stitched seamlessly into the quiet fabric of night. The hours slipped softly toward dawn. Even as the first pale light approached, the camp remained in stillness, yet alive with invisible pulse. Red cloaks, bronze shields, leather straps, all rested gently, absorbing the rhythm of night, readying themselves for the slow unfolding of a new day. The phalanx, whether in motion or in dream, persisted, a meditation of unity and endurance that transcended time, space, and consciousness. Dawn approached once more, spilling pale, muted light across the hills of Sparta. The olive trees were softened in a gentle haze, their leaves trembling slightly in the first whispers of morning wind. Shadows, long and muted, stretched across fields where dust still clung faintly to the earth from the previous day's exercises. The camp, though quiet, seemed alive with memory. Every shield, every spear, every folded cloak a silent echo of motion, discipline, and presence. Warriors began to stir, slowly, deliberately. Hands rested lightly on shields, fingers brushing over bronze, feeling the cool weight. acknowledging the continuity of past, present, and future. The pulse of the Phalanx, carried through body, breath, and subconscious meditation, continued in subtle waves. Each man moved as if drawn by an invisible current, the rhythm of their discipline shaping every motion, every breath, every thought. The philosophy of the Phalanx revealed itself in these early moments. Unity was not merely tactical, it was existential. Courage was not loud or boastful. It was persistent, steady, embedded in rhythm, presence, and awareness. Discipline was not merely obedience. It was an art, a meditation in motion, a connection to lineage, land, and the eternal pattern of life. Every advance, every retreat, every pause, every breath had meaning, echoing far beyond the individual into the living continuity of Sparta itself. The sun rose higher, spilling gentle gold across the landscape. Shadows retreated, replaced by muted light brushing olive groves, rocky hills, and fields. Dust from the day before had settled, but traces remained, a reminder of steps taken, shields pressed, spears angled, breaths synchronized. The Phalanx, even in stillness, persisted in memory and motion, a meditation expressed in body, mind, and spirit. Warriors began to gather once again, not in preparation for battle, but for quiet reflection. They walked slowly, barefoot on soft earth, feeling each contour beneath their feet. Fingers brushed grass, traced textures of soil, smoothed leather and bronze. Even the smallest gestures, adjusting a cloak, leaning on a shield, inhaling the scent of olive trees, became part of the meditation, a conscious acknowledgement of presence, unity, and rhythm. The hills around Sparta seemed to echo their existence. Birds traced slow arcs in the pale morning sky. Wind brushed leaves in gentle waves, and streams reflected soft light like liquid silver. The landscape itself moved in harmony with the warriors. Each ripple, each shadow, each glimmer of light a partner in the silent rhythm of the Phalanx. The connection between earth, men, and sky was undeniable, a seamless meditation woven through motion, breath, and awareness.